first scooter rental could be your last, especially in Thailand, and that's not an exaggeration. I do have to ask one question though. If you had never learned to swim, would you go to a kid's pool or a pool that's, the height you can stand up in and not feel like you're drowning, and get kind of practice at swimming to where you know what you're doing before you do anything else? Or would you go into a deep pool that you couldn't touch the bottom, or would you just go and say, what the hell, and go in the ocean? Well, when you have no ability to ride a motorcycle or scooter, and you go to Thailand and you rent one after never riding it, and you drive on those streets with that traffic and the crazy way that people drive, you're not going into the ocean without knowing how to swim. You're going in shark-infested waters without knowing how to swim. The people in England drive on the left. Americans drive on the right. People that drive in Thailand seem to drive wherever the hell they want. You can see that when you come to a stop sign. In the West, you see lines of traffic that line up with the lines on the street, okay? There's one row of cars and trucks and motorcycles in each lane. When you look at the traffic in Thailand, they just kind of swarm around the intersection. Every little space of room is taken up with a car, motorcycle, or truck. And it's a mess. I understand there's a lot of traffic. It's hard to get around. People do that to save time. But it's dangerous when you don't know what you're doing. When you start out on a bike, whatever kind, whether it's a big one like I have here or a scooter, you have to know what you're doing before you get into traffic. I'm not trying to be a killjoy and say don't rent one, but use the same process with my father, or my father used with me. I learned to ride when I was 12 or 13. A small bike. He took me down to the back lot of the mall, the back parking area, and 4 or 5 weeks in a row, we went down there early in the morning on the weekend when he was off, and I rode, and he would say, okay, now, you stop fast, shift, and he would have me go through the shifting, the stopping, the emergency stopping, turning, making sharp turns to avoid things. And I went through it all. And when I could go through and not really pay attention to the operation of the bike, but whatever I was doing that he had told me to do, like stop or turn or whatever, when I no longer, had to search for the brake or figure out how to, do the clutch and shift or find the shift lever, that's when I was ready to ride by myself. And same way, I'm not saying don't rent a bike, but before you go out on some of the craziest streets ever, and this is supported by statistics because statistically there are a lot of injuries and deaths caused or involving scooters in Thailand. So it's not like I'm just pulling this up for nothing. But before you go out, and especially before you have your girlfriend ride on the back, I see that, and these guys don't know what they're doing. And then on top of it, and to compound the problem, they have the girl hop on the back. It's more weight to balance, and you don't know what you're doing. So you're taking somebody you supposedly care about and putting them in a very dangerous situation. Now, this all came about really because my last trip to Thailand, I was walking calmly down Beach Road, not really paying attention, going to the mall, and all of a sudden, this older English gentleman comes like right at me with a scooter. And you can see he's trying to grab and find the brake, but he's not familiar at all with where the brake is. So finally, right before he hits me, I jump out of the way, he hits the brake, and I don't get smashed. So I looked at him and I said, whoa, he said, have you ridden a bike before? And he said, no, he said, it looked like so much fun, I had to rent one. He said, I've never ridden one. And it's like, and I told him, I said, I've been riding since I was 12, 13 years old, and I would not get on a scooter and ride on these streets. I said, even though I know, riding a bike and all that, I said, and I have a lot of experience doing it, I said, it's dangerous. It's really dangerous. And I said, the way people drive, it's crazy. And I said, so if you go out, be careful. He said, well, thanks for making me nervous. but he needed to be nervous. It's crazy thinking you can drive in traffic like that and learn to ride a bike at the same time. I thought about him several times during my 30 days here, and I hoped he was okay, because it's a crazy thing. You don't expect. Think about when you rode a bicycle. When you were a kid, you didn't start doing things and getting fancy when you first rode. You had a hard time keeping your balance. And so your dad usually had to hold on to the back so you didn't fall over. And that's another thing. As we get older, this older gentleman, he was getting up in age. And as we get older, our balance isn't what it used to be. And our reaction time isn't what it used to be. So if you're going to ride a motorcycle, you really have to pay attention. You really have to focus. And you have to be very careful that you don't lay the bike down. Now, in addition to that, probably the next most important thing is what you wear. Definitely always wear a helmet. You can't. I lost a friend when I was 15. He was goofing around with one of his other buddies, and the guy they were riding a motorcycle out in dirt. We lived in the country, so he was out in a canal on a dirt road, and the guy was fooling around, like popping the clutch and making him feel like he's going to fall off because he wouldn't hold on, because that wasn't cool. And so one of the times he popped the clutch and my buddy went right off the back. He hit his head. And it was on dirt. It wasn't on asphalt, it was on dirt. But he was stubborn, he wouldn't go to the doctor, and he ended up dying because of it. There's so many things that can happen, injuries to your head. So, and you're on concrete or asphalt, you're not dirt. So definitely wear a helmet, make sure it fits well. And I'm not saying it has to be tailor-made to your head, but don't put on one that's 5 sizes too big and it'll fall off. Don't put on one that's so tight it just sits on the top of your head. Now, you don't have to wear a full face mask. The full face helmets are good because they protect your face as well as your head, but they're hot, and I can relate to that. It's hot in California, it's hot in Thailand. So when I ride with a helmet, I always do, but I always ride with a skull cap. It's just right on the top. It protects your head. It's going to do the job, but it's not going to be as effective as a full face. The other thing is also eye protection. You want to wear impact resistant glasses, because you don't realize this when you ride a car because you're not out in the wind. But when you ride a motorcycle or scooter, there's things like constantly being thrown up from the road. Gravel, sand, little pieces of debris and things off cars and trucks are thrown back to you. And sometimes they'll hit you in the body, sometimes they'll hit you in the face, sometimes they'll hit you in the eye. So make sure it's impact resistant glass or plastic, and then make sure that also, and you can get this stuff, it's not expensive, you can get it from Amazon. You can get riding glasses, and riding glasses, the only significance is that around the exterior, where it fits around your eye socket, there's styrofoam or foam of some sort. And what it does is it touches your skin, so it reduces the airflow. So when you're traveling at freeway speeds and the wind is blowing all over the place, if you just have regular sunglasses or no sunglasses, the wind really irritates your eyes, and your eyes will start watering. If you have that riding glasses with a little bit of foam, it'll keep the wind down to where your eyes won't water, because when they start watering, you can't see that well. The other thing is probably as important, and it's the hardest to tell people to do in Thailand because it's hot. If you see anyone whoever went down on a bike, you will see they dress properly for riding a bike. They have a jacket like I have on right now, and a riding jacket. This is a mesh jacket, which is cooler than like a leather jacket, but it's still warm, okay? It's made to keep you from getting road rash, which is when you go down the road taking off your skin. It also has reinforcements in the elbow and the shoulder. Anywhere you might hit down, there's padding, and there's also extra material, because if the road chews up material really fast, and then it starts on your skin. And you don't want, when I see these guys going and they don't have a shirt on, they got shorts and flip-flops, their girlfriend's sitting on the back in a bikini, and they act like they're learning how to shift, It's like, you're nuts. It's like, think about like a cheese grater on cheese, because that's what that asphalt does to your skin. And I only went down once and I learned my lesson. And you may not want to wear, because when I ride, I do a riding jacket. Depending on the weather, I have warmer ones and cooler, lighter ones. I do thick jeans or riding pants, and those are just reinforced in the impact areas again. And then you wear boots. But in Thailand, if I were to ride a motorcycle, which I've never done, if I were to ride a motorcycle, I'd wear a long sleeve shirt and jeans and a pair of shoes, not flip flops. So if I go down, at least some of my body will be protected. The other things that you want to do when you rent a motorcycle, most of the people that rent motorcycles are honest people. They're just trying to make it, money. But one of the things, anytime you do a rental in any country, especially Thailand or in Southeast Asia, always, always videotape the entire vehicle, whether it's a motorcycle, a car, a jet ski. Videotape everything, because it's the only way to protect yourself. There's a language barrier to where if you come back and the first thing most people with motorcycles do is say, okay, give me your passport. And most people just reach in their pocket and hand over their passport. That's a big mistake. If there's any kind of disagreement, they have your passport that they don't have to give you back. If a policeman comes out, policemen are fair usually, but they probably almost always side on the side of the person from Thailand, not the tourist. And so that's the thing. If you have a videotape, you have proof of the way the bike looked. And when he says, oh no, that scratch wasn't there, that, crack wasn't there, and you show the video where it was there, no one can argue with it. The policeman, and sometimes a guy calls out a policeman he knows that's kind of sympathetic to his money collection ways. But even in that case, if you videotape it, the guy probably won't even attempt to say you did something to the bike, because he knows you videotaped it, you have proof. And so you're fine. Always though, when you rent a bike, make sure you have a helmet that fits and a helmet for anyone that may ride the bike. Don't just get one, because then one of you is going to be without a helmet. It's against the law and it's dangerous. So as you do that, be safe. Learn how to ride before you try riding, and good luck.